Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I'm really excited today because I am finally doing my haunted tourism, dark tourism video on Scotland. I know I've been talking about this and I know I'm a little behind, but I just haven't had time to film this or fit everything in to get around to filming this video, but I am so excited to be able to do it now. Before I get into that, obviously if you, as I've been saying, hear a hum in the background, that is my AC. It is very hot in New York City, so it's really hard to film this video without the AC on, so that is what that noise is. But yeah, let's chat about Scotland. So I've definitely spoken about it a little bit before on my channel. If you know, I did get engaged back in June in Scotland. I will talk about that a little bit in this video. But I am huge into dark tourism. I am huge into haunted tourism. I have made almost all of the trips that I have taken recently within the last several years around haunted happenings. I started this series last August, actually, when my now fiance and I went to the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, and have since just continued it and just love documenting the really cool and off the beaten path types of tourism that you can do. Scotland is not only one of the most beautiful places I have ever been, but it is also one of the most haunted places. And so I was originally going to do an entire video on just my haunted European travels. We went to Scotland, Ireland, and England, but I had to make one video dedicated solely to Scotland because even though we only spent 4 days there, I did so many cool, creepy, and haunted things. And I have a bunch of photos that I will be sharing with you guys, and just want to dive into all the amazing things that you guys can do in Scotland if you are morbidly inclined. So we did stay in Edinburgh, which is one of the major towns it's one of the major cities of Scotland. You have Glasgow and you have Edinburgh. We decided to go to Edinburgh because it looked a lot more aesthetically interesting than Glasgow, and it had a lot more haunted things to do. And so we got there and we stayed at the Scotsman Hotel, which was absolutely beautiful and apparently extremely haunted, though I experienced absolutely nothing when I was staying there. But it was one of the most beautiful hotels I've ever been in. Our room was absolutely breathtaking. But yes, no ghostly things happening, but it is the former location of the famous Scotsman newspaper, which is no longer there, and they decided to turn the building into a hotel. I do have a couple interior shots. I didn't take too many photos, but we did have these like really beautiful stained glass windows, kind of like overlooking the dining hall area, sort of. You just like walk down the staircase to get there. There was these just amazing stained glass like moment. But I did highly enjoy staying at the Scotsman. Again, it didn't feel haunted. It was beautiful. It was renovated. I loved it. But just didn't feel haunted, even though it apparently is. And so one of the first things we did was kind of walk around Edinburgh. It's a really absolutely stunning, beautiful town. It looks, apart from like a lot of like the modern shops and stuff, pretty similar to how it did way back in like the 1500s, which is really cool. Like, again, you'll see on TikTok all the time, like, these people who just post, like, oh, the most beautiful cities in the world. And it's usually shots of Edinburgh. Like, it's absolutely beautiful with all of its stonework and cobblestone and just everything about it, and castles and foliage. Like, it's absolutely breathtaking. But as we were walking around the town, we did first stop into Blackwell's bookshop, which is Edinburgh's oldest bookshop. And I had to pick up Scottish Murders. I did read this back in June and spoke about it on my channel. Here you can see Edinburgh Castle in the background, I believe, which we did visit. But this was really fun. It talks a lot about the Burke and Hare murders and the Crocodile Man, and it was just fascinating to me because I didn't realize there were so many like kind of famous murders that happened in Scotland. It's something you don't really think about. First and foremost, the Burke and Hare body snatchers, which I will talk about more and more on this little episode because they come back into play quite often. But after that we went to the Surgeons Hall museums, which I don't really have any photos of. But if you've ever been to the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia, it's very similar. It's pretty much surgical anomalies. So there's an entire gallery, room, hall, I don't know, it was massive, of just like body parts and internal organs that had like problems. So you can see like cancerous organs, or you can see like eyes that are going blind, all these different stages of like scoliosis. It was really, really interesting. You can actually go and sit in a makeshift like surgeon's viewing chamber, like back in like the day, like if you watch like Penny Dreadful, you'll see this, where they all kind of sit in a circle and watch like the surgeon operate. So all of that's there, including the, I believe it's Burke. I think it's Burke, it might be Hare. I'm not 100% sure. One of them, they do have a death mask as well as a notebook that has been made out of their skin, kind of as an FU to the famous murderers slash body snatchers. And that is on display at this museum. It's really creepy and it's really gross, but it is there. This museum is not for the faint of heart. It is actually, I think, a lot more intense than the Mutter Museum, but it was really, really cool. I don't know if I would ever go back. I did buy a little pen, the Surgeons Hall Museum, because I had, as you can see, it's very much evaporated. But I do have a little Mutter Museum pen, so that was really fun to get two to go with each other. But yeah, I don't know if I would ever go back there, but it was really cool to see one time, and it made me extremely, extremely queasy. There was like a wall of just like ears, like it was bizarre. But we were not allowed to take photos anywhere, so that's why I don't really have any photos to share with you on that. For anybody interested, just because we were on like a big museum kick on our first day, down at the National Museum of Scotland, which is just a few blocks away from the Surgeons Hall Museum, is Dolly the Cloned Sheep. So if you've ever been interested in seeing Dolly the Sheep, if you know what that is right there as well, and I highly recommend it. There's a little photo of Dolly, she's so cute. But yes, that was really fun to see. And then next up we went to Greyfriars Bobby. Greyfriars Bobby is a dog that was famous for being at Greyfriars Cemetery, which is one of the most famous cemeteries in the world. If you're a Harry Potter fan, J.K. Rowling lived right around the corner from that cemetery and would go through that cemetery, which is one of the most beautiful cemeteries I've ever seen, and find names on headstones to name her characters in Harry Potter when she was writing. Most famously is Tom Riddle, so you can go and see the Tom Riddle tombstone, which we did, which was awesome. It was really cool. They also have a bunch of tombstones that are like just super gothic with like skulls and crossbones and these just insane like above ground like mausoleum sculpture type things. Like Greyfriars Cemetery was absolutely breathtaking, and it's really tiny too, which I was not expecting. But one of the highlights of Greyfriars is Greyfriars Bobby, as you can see pictured here. This is the statue that everybody poops the snoot of. But Greyfriars Bobby is apparently a real dog who was like the adopted stray of one of the groundskeepers. And when the groundskeeper died, he continued to go to the cemetery and sit at the previous owner's grave. I think he was a groundskeeper. He might have just been a guy who got buried there. But Bobby eventually became adopted by the cemetery, and when he died, they also gave him his own gravesite, which we got to go and visit. It's right at the entrance of the cemetery. It's also quite beautiful. There's another statue of him, and he is just a couple feet away from his master, which is really, really sweet. So I loved seeing that. Just a little aside, I know I mentioned J.K. Rowling was greatly inspired by Edinburgh to write Harry Potter. You can actually go into all of these crazy touristy Harry Potter shops. I'll talk more about that in my London video. But one of the things we did get to go to was this like, I don't even know what you would call it, like a gift shop that kind of imitated the Chamber of Secrets. So you have like the infamous like the Chamber of Secrets has been opened, enemies of the air beware sign up there, and then like this really cool basilisk. And that was just like on like the main strip in Edinburgh, just very casually, but I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was really cool. Okay, so the next day we went up to the Edinburgh Castle, which is right in the center of Edinburgh. It's probably one of the like streets that leads up to it. It's one of the most photographed streets in Edinburgh. It's absolutely an amazing castle, but it's much smaller than I thought it was going to be. The Witch's Well is right outside of it, which is where a bunch of witches, I believe, were executed. I want to say burned, but they might have been hanged. And now it has become kind of like this monument memorial to them. It's really beautiful, and it is right at the entrance of the castle, right across this restaurant called The Witchery, which we did go to for dinner, and was, again, one of the most beautiful restaurants I have ever been to. It was absolutely incredible fine dining, and it is so gorgeous. It is called The Witchery because, again, it was where witches were held before they were executed, and it has now just been turned into a gorgeous establishment, continuing to hold the name of the witchery so that we do understand and remember what happened there. And it is also supposed to be one of the most haunted places in Scotland. I will say, when I went down a hallway to use the bathroom, I did get a little bit of the heebie-jeebies walking down there. Definitely felt a little uncomfortable, but didn't get too many ghost vibes, but it was beautiful, and I highly, highly, highly recommend, if you're in Edinburgh, to go to the witchery. And again, right across from the Witch's Well, which was also really, really pretty. So we went into Edinburgh Castle. Again, like I said, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be, but it's still pretty large. And it's kind of laid out almost like a fort rather than a castle. And it's got like a bunch of these, like, it's got a massive courtyard, again, with like the classic like lions of the United Kingdom or whatnot guarding the door, along with a little pet cemetery. So if you're overlooking Edinburgh, you can kind of see in this photo the town of Edinburgh down below. And it's really hard to get to, and it's not open to the public, but there is an actual pet cemetery for all of the pets that have lived in the castle, as you can see right there, which I thought was so sweet. Edinburgh Castle is also supposed to be very, very haunted. I believe Mary Queen of Scots haunts it. There's a couple different ghosts who were cited to be there. Again, didn't really get too many ghost vibes, but it was also very, very touristy when I went. So after this, we decided to do a little bit of like a haunted pub crawl. We went to a couple places. The first one we went to is the White Hart. It's one of the oldest bars in Edinburgh, and it is where Burke and Hare notoriously would pick up people that they would bring back to then murder, to then sell their bodies to surgeons for a profit. And they really, really, really lean into the fact that it is not only a haunted pub, which I got serious ghost vibes from, but also the site of some of the Burke and Hare crimes. So they even have this cute little sign that says, "Have you seen our ghost? Haunted since 1516." And then this whole wall is attributed to like Burke and Hare. They're all articles and comic strips and illustrations. And then you even have like a little like then you have like a little hanged Burke, like just kind of up in the corner at the entrance of the door, which I thought was really cool. Mac and cheese in this pub was also to die for, so if you go there, I highly recommend it. Definitely some of the best food that I had on this trip. So then after that, we decided to go on the underground walking tour in Edinburgh. Edinburgh is extremely, Edinburgh is famous for having these underground vaults underneath it, which is something I didn't realize until right before we booked the trip. Pretty much like the main strip of Edinburgh, that main road has vaults fully hidden under it, and they're all owned by different people. Supposed to be very, very haunted. And we did the Old Reekie Tours underground walking tour, and that's privately owned by them. This was so cool and so creepy, and a lot of it was done by like candlelight and flashlights and these just ancient vaults that have been around since I think like the 1800s. You can see some photos where I think I may have captured orbs. There was a Wiccan altar that is preserved there that has been there since the 90s. They used to practice there, but then one of the Wiccans had a run-in with some kind of demon, they believe, so they have now moved where they practice and no longer practice in the vaults, but they have kept the actual altar open still, and they work with the tour group to keep it that way and to keep it preserved. There's also many rumors of banshees being in the vault. I'll get back to that in a little bit, but this I thought was one of the coolest things I have ever been to. It was so creepy and claustrophobic. There's even a Celtic circle of stones in the center of one of the vaults that the Wiccans set up for protection to keep some of the evil that might be lurking in the vaults in and out of the rest of the vaults. But if you are in Edinburgh, I highly recommend these vaults. And if you don't want to do a tour, you can actually go right around the corner from the Old Reekie tour to what is called the Banshee Labyrinth, which was my personal favorite bar that we went to in Edinburgh. And it is a bar that is primarily like a dive bar that has been fully constructed inside of the vaults. So they do own it, and you can have beer in the vault. It's absolutely massive. It's multiple layers, but they have coffin-shaped tables and just like skeletons everywhere, and each room has the history of the ghosts that haunt it. And it was just really fun. So it's haunted by Old Jack as well as Molly in 2 separate rooms, and you can read all about them. But it was absolutely awesome, and I did buy a t-shirt because I couldn't not, and the artwork was so cool on it. But yeah, I highly recommend, if you don't want to do a tour, definitely checking out the Banshee Labyrinth pub, or just, you know, doing both like I did. And then the final haunted pub that we went to that day was Deacon Brody, which is inspired by the 1788 crimes of Deacon Brody. If you do not know, he is the real life inspiration for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He was a high society man who at night kind of paraded around as a criminal and inspired the story that we know today. This one didn't feel super haunted, and I was actually kind of underwhelmed by it, but it was really interesting to see this plaque and read all about the actual Deacon Brody, the actual Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this was the Deacon Brody's Tavern, sorry, not pub. So then the next day we got up and we took the Rabbies tour to Loch Ness. I'm not going to go too into Loch Ness because I do have a full video about my engagement there. It was about a 5-hour journey to get up to Loch Ness. It's usually about a 2 to 3 hour drive from Edinburgh, but we stopped along the way to see a lot of the Highlands. And did a lot of little photo ops and saw a lot of really cool mountains and stuff before getting there, so that's why it took so long. But then we did get there. We were at the southern tip of Loch Ness. Loch Ness, I believe, is 23 miles long, so we did not do all of it, but we just kind of stayed at the tip. The highlight for me was obviously getting engaged, but we didn't really see a lot of the lake. We didn't do the boat tour or anything because my fiance obviously wanted to propose and didn't want to be on a boat tour instead. But I really loved it. It was rainy and it was very cold. Edinburgh is a very cold city. Even for June, it was like 60, maybe 55 degrees for a lot of it. But I really did enjoy it. The Nessie gift shop was great. They had a really good almond cake. And we also got to see some Highland cows afterwards, which was also great. They kind of look like the Beatles in the 60s with their bangs. And so I know this video is kind of going on and on and on. So hopefully this gives you like a little bit of insight in a lot of the fun things that you can do in Edinburgh. I would definitely want to go back to Scotland very soon. I really enjoyed it. I would love to see more of the castles, especially some of the castles up in the Highlands. For those of you who don't know, like when you think of like Braveheart and like the kilts and stuff like that, a lot of that is Highland Scotland versus Lowland Scotland, which is where like Glasgow and Edinburgh is. And I would love to go and do all of the Isles. But it was so much fun and it was so beautiful, and I was so thrilled to have so many creepy and haunted things that we were able to do. And again, we were only there for like 3.5, 4 days. The fact that we were able to get everything fit into such a short amount of time and do so much was just awesome for me. So I highly recommend Scotland, highly recommend Edinburgh. The city, again, is just absolutely beautiful. If you want to stay somewhere, the Scotsman was awesome. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. Hopefully I will get my England and Ireland video up very soon. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. And if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah.